Blood of the Demon Throne. Chapter 1. The Cub of the Frost. The biting wind whipped through the ancient, snow-laden pines, carrying with it the scent of frost and distant wood smoke. Elara, her breath misting in the frigid air, pulled her thick woolen cloak tighter. Beside her, Bram, his grizzled beard dusted with snowflakes, scanned the tree line with a practiced eye. But it was the figure ahead, a solitary silhouette against the stark white landscape, that truly commanded their attention. This was the Guardian, and at their heels, a creature of myth and muscle, Coda. Not yet fully grown, but already a formidable presence, Coda moved with a silent grace that belied his immense strength. His fur, thick and dark, seemed to absorb the meager winter light, making him a shadow among shadows. He was a bear, yes, but more than that. He was family. Years ago, the Guardian had found Coda as a mere cub, abandoned and vulnerable in a world that offered little mercy. From that moment, an unbreakable bond had formed, a silent pact forged in the crucible of survival. The Guardian had nurtured him, taught him, and in return, Coda had offered unwavering loyalty and a companionship that transcended the boundaries of species. Their world was a paradox, a tapestry woven with threads of ancient tradition and startling innovation. Medieval castles, their stone walls scarred by centuries of wind and war, stood sentinel over valleys where strange glowing conduits hummed with unseen energy. Farmers tilled frozen fields with plows guided by intricate clockwork mechanisms, and merchants haggled over goods beneath the flickering glow of arcane streetlights. It was a realm where the clatter of a blacksmith's hammer mingled with the faint, high-pitched whine of advanced aerial craft passing overhead, Viking longships reimagined with polished chrome and pulsating engines. Winter in this land was a season of harsh beauty and brutal scarcity. Food was a constant concern, and every foraging expedition was a gamble against the elements and the unseen dangers that lurked in the deeper woods. Today their mission was simple: gather what they could, and perhaps, if luck favored them, trade with the reclusive mountain folk known for their preserved meats and hardy grains. As they ventured deeper, Coda paused, his massive head cocked, ears swiveling. A low growl rumbled in his chest, a sound that was both primal and intelligent. The Guardian placed a reassuring hand on his shoulder, a silent question passing between them. Coda looked back, his intelligent eyes, deep pools of amber, conveying a warning. Something was amiss. The forest, usually alive with the subtle symphony of winter, was eerily silent. The wind, once a familiar companion, now seemed to whisper secrets of impending peril. Chapter 2. Shadows in the Snow. The uneasy silence of the forest pressed in on the small group. Coda's earlier warning had put everyone on edge. Bram tightened his grip on the hilt of his axe, his gaze darting between the skeletal branches of the trees. Elara, usually serene, now clutched a small, leather-bound pouch of herbs, her knuckles white. "What is it, Coda?" the Guardian whispered, their voice barely audible above the crunch of their boots on the frozen ground. Coda let out a soft huff, his powerful snout pointing towards a cluster of ancient, gnarled oaks. There was no visible threat, no sound beyond the rustle of their own movements, yet the bear's instincts were rarely wrong. They continued their trek more cautiously now, their senses heightened. The path they followed was faint, a deer trail mostly, leading deeper into a less traveled part of the woods. It was here, in a small, sheltered clearing, that they hoped to find the last of the winter berries, or perhaps a hidden cache of dried nuts left by earlier foragers. The trade-off with the mountain folk was crucial, but they needed to bring something of their own to the table. As they began to search, spreading out slightly, a flicker of movement caught the Guardian's eye. It was Bram, or so it seemed. He was standing by a thicket of snow-covered bushes, his back to them, and he seemed to be doing something with his hand. A glint of metal, a quick, almost imperceptible motion. Then he was gone, melting back into the shadows of the trees, as if he had never been there. The Guardian frowned. "Bram, did you find something?" they called out, but there was no reply. A moment later, Bram reappeared from a different direction, whistling a tuneless melody, a small bundle of dried kindling under his arm. He looked entirely innocent, his eyes crinkling at the corners as he offered a cheerful, "Just some good firewood, Guardian. This cold bites deep." The Guardian exchanged a puzzled glance with Coda, who merely shook his massive head, a low growl vibrating in his chest. The bear's eyes, however, were fixed on Bram, a flicker of suspicion in their depths. It was a fleeting moment, easily dismissed as a trick of the light or an overactive imagination, but it left a lingering unease. Had they seen two Brams, or had the first one simply moved with unnatural speed? They gathered what little they could find, the strange encounter with Bram, or his phantom, weighing on the Guardian's mind. The air grew colder, the light began to fade, and the feeling of being watched intensified. The forest, once a place of refuge, now felt like a cage, its shadows concealing more than just the coming night. The trade-off would have to wait. Something far more sinister was unfolding around them, and the mystery of Bram's brief, unsettling disappearance was only the first thread in a rapidly unraveling tapestry of deceit. Chapter 3. The Searing Light. As dusk painted the western sky in hues of bruised purple and fiery orange, the group decided to make camp in a small, rocky outcrop, hoping its natural defenses would offer some protection. A small fire was coaxed to life, its flickering flames casting dancing shadows that seemed to twist and writhe with the growing tension. Coda, ever vigilant, positioned himself at the edge of their makeshift camp, his senses alert to every rustle and snap of twig. Bram was sharpening his axe by the fire, the rhythmic scrape of stone against steel a stark counterpoint to the silence. Ilara was tending to a small pot of stew, her brow furrowed in concentration, but her eyes frequently darted towards the surrounding darkness. The Guardian, however, couldn't shake the image of Bram's strange disappearance earlier. It gnawed at them, a tiny splinter of doubt in an otherwise solid alliance. Suddenly, a high-pitched, almost mechanical shriek pierced the night. It was followed by a searing emerald beam of light that tore through the air, narrowly missing Coda's head and carving a smoking trench in the snow behind him. The world erupted into chaos. Figures, small and agile, with elongated limbs and scales that shimmered faintly in the dim light, swarmed from the tree line. Their eyes, twin lenses that glowed with an eerie red, fixed on the group. "Lemming elves!" Bram roared, already on his feet, axe swinging in a wide arc. These were the scouts, the harbingers of the Demon King's wrath, known for their speed and their devastating laser weaponry. Another beam of light, this one thicker and more intense, lanced out, striking Ilara's twin sister, who had been lagging slightly behind, her arm raised in a futile attempt to shield herself. A guttural scream tore from her throat as her arm, from the elbow down, simply ceased to exist, vaporized in a flash of green energy. The Guardian's blood ran cold. Ilara, seeing her sister fall, let out a cry of anguish, dropping her pot and rushing to her side. But as the Guardian moved to help, they noticed something unsettling. The fallen sister's eyes, usually a warm hazel like Ilara's, were cold, calculating, and devoid of the pain one would expect. There was a subtle, almost imperceptible difference in her features, a hardness that Ilara lacked. And then, as the Guardian looked closer, they saw it. A faint, almost invisible seam running along her jawline, like a poorly healed scar. Coda, meanwhile, was a whirlwind of fur and fury. He met the charging lemming elves head-on, his massive paws swatting them aside like bothersome insects. But their numbers were overwhelming, and their lasers were relentless. One particularly audacious creature, its movements a blur, managed to slip past Koda's guard, its laser pistol aimed directly at his chest. The Guardian watched in horror, knowing that even Koda's thick hide might not withstand a direct hit. The ambush was complete, and they were caught in its searing, deadly light. Chapter 4: Blood and Chrome. The lemming elf, a grotesque fusion of reptilian and insectoid features, lunged at Koda, its laser pistol spitting emerald death. But Koda, even in the chaos, was faster. His bear instincts, honed by years of survival in a harsh world, kicked in with primal ferocity. With a roar that shook the very trees, he intercepted the creature mid-air, his massive paws clamping down on both of its spindly arms, pinning the laser weapon between them. The creature shrieked, a sound like grinding metal, struggling against Koda's immense strength. Its camera eyes, twin orbs of cold, unfeeling optics, whirred as they tried to focus on Koda's face. The Guardian, witnessing the desperate struggle, screamed, "Bite its head off, Koda! Now!" In a split second, Koda's powerful jaws snapped shut, not on the creature's head, but on its arm, twisting with brutal force. The lemming elf's grip on the laser pistol faltered, and in that instant, Koda, with a surprising surge of agility, flipped the weapon. The emerald beam, instead of striking him, lanced backward, piercing the creature's own abdomen. A gurgling cry escaped its throat as it convulsed, its movements slowing. Then, with a final decisive crunch, Koda's jaws closed around the lemming elf's head. The sound was sickening, a wet thud followed by the splintering of bone and the shattering of optical lenses. The creature went limp, its body falling to the snow, its camera eyes now dark and lifeless. Koda, still holding the mangled head, turned it towards the Guardian, a silent question in his amber eyes. The Guardian, adrenaline coursing through their veins, felt a surge of defiant rage. They knelt beside the fallen creature, its two camera eyes staring blankly. With a snarl, the Guardian raised both hands, extending their middle fingers directly into the dead lenses. "That's for you, you bastards," they spat, knowing that somewhere, somehow, this image was being relayed. Koda, understanding the gesture, tightened his grip, crushing the head further, a silent testament to their shared fury. The battle, though fierce, was short-lived. The remaining lemming elves, seeing their scout leader dispatched with such brutal efficiency, hesitated. Their advanced technology was formidable, but Koda's raw, untamed power was something they hadn't anticipated. They scattered, melting back into the shadows from which they had emerged, leaving behind a trail of smoking snow and the acrid smell of ozone. As the immediate threat receded, the Guardian rushed to Koda, their heart pounding. "Are you all right, son?" they asked, their voice thick with concern. Koda grunted, a low rumbling sound, and gestured to his abdomen. A dark, wet stain was spreading across his fur, a testament to the laser blast that had struck the lemming elf but had also grazed him. The thick hide had protected him from the worst, but the beam had pierced through, leaving a deep, cauterized wound. Elara, her face pale but determined, was already by her sister's side, tears streaming down her face as she cradled the severed arm. Bram, axe still in hand, stood guard, his eyes scanning the perimeter. The immediate danger was over, but the chilling realization settled upon them. They had been ambushed, and the precision of the attack, the swiftness of the lemming elves, suggested a level of organization far beyond mere chance encounters. This was no random skirmish, it was a calculated strike. The blood on the snow, the chrome of the fallen scout's weapon, all pointed to a deeper, more sinister plot unfolding in their frozen world. The mystery of Bram's earlier disappearance now seemed less like a hallucination and more like a chilling prelude to this brutal assault. They were being hunted, and the hunt had just begun. Chapter 5. The Healer's Gift. The immediate aftermath of the ambush was a flurry of urgent activity. Ilara, despite her own grief and shock, quickly took charge of the wounded. Her twin sister, Vesper, lay unconscious, her arm a gruesome, cauterized stump. Coda, though stoic, was bleeding steadily from the laser wound in his abdomen. Bram, ever practical, began to reinforce their makeshift camp, dragging fallen logs to create a more substantial barrier. "Coda, let me see that," Ilara commanded, her voice firm despite the tremor in her hands. She knelt beside the massive bear, her fingers gently probing the edges of the wound. The laser had indeed pierced his thick hide, leaving a deep, angry burn. She pulled out a small, intricately carved wooden vial from her pouch, uncorking it to release a sweet, earthy aroma. Pouring a viscous, glowing liquid onto the wound, she began to chant softly in a language as old as the mountains themselves. The liquid shimmered, and slowly, miraculously, the edges of the burn began to knit together, the raw flesh closing with an almost imperceptible hum. Next, she turned to her sister. The Guardian watched, fascinated and horrified, as Ilara placed her hands over the gaping wound where Vesper's arm had been. The same glowing liquid was applied, and Ilara's chanting grew more intense, her brow furrowed in concentration. A faint, ethereal light emanated from her hands, enveloping the injured limb. Slowly, agonizingly, new tissue began to sprout, then bone, then muscle, and finally skin. Within minutes, a fully formed arm, pale and new, had regenerated, leaving no trace of the devastating injury. It was a miracle, a testament to the ancient, powerful healing arts Ilara possessed. As Vesper stirred, groaning softly, Coda, now visibly more comfortable, spoke, his voice a deep rumble that resonated with newfound clarity. The man, Bram, he was not alone. The Guardian's head snapped up. "What do you mean, Coda? We saw him." Coda's amber eyes fixed on Bram, who had paused his work, listening intently. "Before the attack, I sensed two. One, the Bram we know. The other, a shadow, a copy. It was the copy who signaled the attack." Bram dropped his log, his face a mask of shock and dawning horror. "A clone? A doppelganger," he breathed, running a hand through his hair. "But why?" The Guardian remembered the fleeting glimpse of Bram by the thicket, the glint of metal, the unnatural speed. It all clicked into place. The first Bram they saw, the one who vanished, was the imposter. The real Bram had been elsewhere, perhaps incapacitated, or simply out of sight, only to reappear moments later, oblivious to the sinister charade. "They must have used him to get close," the Guardian deduced, their voice tight with anger. "To make us trust him, to lower our guard." Ilara, having finished her healing, looked up, her eyes wide. But who would do such a thing, and how? Coda's gaze hardened. "The Demon King. He has many tools, many dark arts at his disposal. This clone, it was a message, a warning. Our hideout is compromised. Our home, it is no longer safe." The revelation hung heavy in the frigid air. Bram, though cleared of suspicion, felt the sting of betrayal, not from his companions but from the unseen enemy who had so cruelly manipulated his image. The damage was done. Their sanctuary, the place they had called home, was now a beacon for their enemies. The ambush was not just an attack, it was a declaration of war, and they were now refugees in their own land, forced to confront a truth far more complex and dangerous than they had ever imagined. Chapter 6. The Royal Lineage. The chilling pronouncement from Coda hung in the air, heavier than the winter fog. Their home, the secluded haven they had painstakingly built, was compromised. The ambush was not merely an attack but a calculated move, a demonstration of power by an unseen yet omnipresent enemy. The revelation of Bram's doppelganger, a chillingly effective deception, solidified the grim truth. They were being hunted. "The Demon King," Alara whispered, the name a venomous hiss on her lips. "But why us? What do we have that he wants?" Coda shifted, his massive frame radiating a newfound tension. He looked at the Guardian, then at Bram, and finally at the still-recovering Vesper, whose eyes, though now open, held a cold, distant quality. "It is not what you have," Coda rumbled, his voice deeper, more resonant than before, "but what I am." The Guardian felt a prickle of unease. They had always known Coda was special, more than just a bear. His intelligence, his speech, his almost supernatural strength, these were not traits of a mere animal. But his words now hinted at something far grander and far more dangerous. "What are you, Coda?" the Guardian asked, their voice barely a whisper. Coda met their gaze, his amber eyes filled with an ancient sorrow. "I am one of two. In this entire universe there are only two of my kind left, two bear hybrids, and the other is the Demon King." A stunned silence descended upon the group. The implications were staggering. Coda, their gentle giant, their loyal companion, was royalty. Not just any royalty, but the brother of the tyrannical ruler of their world. The revelation cast a new, unsettling light on everything. His superhuman speed, his thick, almost impenetrable hide, his uncanny knowledge, it all made sense now. "He is my brother by blood, but not by spirit," Coda continued, a growl rumbling deep in his chest. "He craves absolute power, dominion over all. He saw me as a threat, a rival to his throne, even as a cub. He sought to eliminate me, to ensure his unchallenged rule." The Guardian remembered finding Coda, a tiny, helpless cub, alone in the wilderness. It wasn't abandonment. It was an attempted execution. A chill ran down their spine. They had unknowingly rescued a prince, a potential heir to a dark empire, and in doing so had drawn the ire of a king. "So he's been hunting you all this time?" Bram asked, his hand instinctively going to his axe. "And now he knows where you are?" Coda nodded grimly. The lemming elves, their camera eyes, they relayed the information. My defiance, my existence, was confirmed. He will not rest until I am either subjugated or destroyed. The weight of Coda's lineage settled heavily upon them. Their simple life of foraging and survival was over. They were now embroiled in a cosmic struggle for power, caught between two brothers, one a tyrant, the other a reluctant hero. Their secluded hideout, once a sanctuary, was now a target. The forest, which had always offered solace, now felt like a trap. "We cannot stay here," the Guardian declared, their voice firm, a new resolve hardening their features. "He knows. He will send more, stronger. We have to move." Ilara, though still shaken, nodded in agreement. Bram, ever the pragmatist, began to pack their meager belongings. The dream of a peaceful life, of simply existing in their corner of the world, shattered. A new, perilous path lay before them. They were no longer just survivors. They were rebels, fugitives, embarking on a quest to confront a king. Their home was lost, but perhaps, in its loss, they would find a new purpose, to challenge the very foundation of their world and reclaim it from the clutches of the Demon King. Chapter 7. The Red Mantis. The decision was made. Their home, once a sanctuary, was now a liability. The Demon King knew of Coda's existence and, by extension, theirs. To stay was to invite certain destruction. They would leave, not as defeated refugees, but as a determined vanguard, seeking to dismantle the very power that threatened them. "Where do we go?" Alara asked, her voice tinged with a weariness that belied her youthful appearance. She had just finished applying a final, strengthening poultice to Coda's wound, which was now almost entirely healed, a testament to her potent abilities. "To the mountains," the Guardian replied, their gaze sweeping across the familiar landscape, now imbued with a sense of finality. "To the Demon King. We will find him, and we will end his reign." Bram nodded, his hand resting on his axe. "A fool's errand, perhaps, but a necessary one. We can't run forever." Coda, however, remained silent, his amber eyes distant, lost in thought. The weight of his lineage, the burden of his brother's tyranny, pressed heavily upon him. He was a symbol, a beacon of hope for a world oppressed, but also a target. His distinctive bear features, while a source of comfort to his companions, would be a dead giveaway to the Demon King's vast network of spies and enforcers. "We need to hide your identity, Coda," the Guardian stated, voicing the unspoken concern. "Your face, it's too recognizable." From their meager belongings, the Guardian produced a curious artifact. It was a helmet crafted from a strange, iridescent metal, its design reminiscent of a praying mantis's head. Two glowing red slits served as eye holes, giving the wearer an otherworldly, menacing appearance. It was an ancient piece, found years ago in a forgotten ruin, and had been kept more as a curiosity than a practical item. "The red mantis," the Guardian murmured, holding it out to Coda. "It will obscure your features, make you anonymous." Coda regarded the helmet with a mixture of apprehension and understanding. He took it, the metal cool against his fur, and with a deep sigh placed it upon his head. The glowing red eyes immediately flared to life, casting an eerie crimson glow on his face. His bare features were completely hidden, replaced by the angular, alien visage of the mantis. He was no longer just Coda, the bear. He was a mystery, a force to be reckoned with, a harbinger of change. With their new resolve and Coda's new guise, the group began their arduous journey. They moved deeper into the forest, leaving behind the remnants of their shattered home. Their destination, the towering snow-capped peaks that pierced the distant horizon, rumored to be the location of the Demon King's fortress. Along the way, they hoped to gather more information about the ambush, about the Demon King's forces, and perhaps find allies who shared their desire for freedom. The path was treacherous, the winter unforgiving, but their spirits were hardened by purpose. The red mantis, with its glowing eyes, led the way, a silent promise of vengeance and liberation against the encroaching darkness. Their adventure had truly begun, a desperate quest to reclaim their world from the clutches of a tyrannical brother, and to forge a new destiny for themselves and for all who suffered under the Demon King's iron bear paw. Chapter 8. The Sky Viking's Shadow. High above the snow-dusted peaks, a vessel of polished chrome and ancient wood cut through the frigid air. It was a Sky Viking longship, its sleek dragon-headed prow now adorned with pulsating energy conduits and multispectral sensors. This was no ordinary ship. It was a marvel of the Demon King's advanced technology, a fusion of brutalist design and alien engineering. Inside the command bridge, bathed in the soft blue glow of holographic displays, sat the Demon King's inner circle. Vesper, Ilara's twin but twisted by malice, her newly regenerated arm flexing almost imperceptibly, watched the main screen with a cruel smile. Beside her, the Bram clone, a perfect replica down to the last furrow in his brow, but with eyes that held a chilling emptiness, reviewed tactical data. And at the center, a being of unsettling power and arcane knowledge, a gaunt, robed figure with eyes that glowed with an inner, malevolent light. The Warlock. The scout's last transmission was clear, Vesper purred, her voice a low, dangerous rumble. The bear lives, and he is with the Guardian. They are heading towards the northern peaks. The Bram clone nodded, his voice a flat, synthesized monotone. Data analysis confirms the bear's unique energy signature. The Guardian's presence is also verified. Their trajectory suggests an attempt to reach the King's mountain fortress. The Warlock, his face obscured by the deep hood of his cowl, merely chuckled, a dry, rasping sound. Fools, they seek to challenge the inevitable. The Demon King's power is absolute. This, Coda, is merely a forgotten echo. A dangerous echo, Vesper corrected, a flicker of annoyance in her eyes. He crushed one of our best scouts, and the Guardian. They showed remarkable defiance. They are not to be underestimated. She remembered the Guardian's defiant gesture, the two middle fingers, and a cold rage simmered within her. Such insolence would be repaid tenfold. Indeed, the Warlock conceded, a long skeletal finger tapping a holographic map. The King desires the bear alive if possible, to break his spirit, to force his allegiance. But the Guardian, they are a variable, a dangerous influence. They must be eliminated. The Bram clone projected a series of images onto the main screen, grainy thermal scans of the group moving through the forest. Coda, unmistakable even with the red mantis helmet, led the way. The Guardian, Alara, and the real Bram followed close behind. The clone's eyes, though artificial, seemed to narrow. Their progress is slow, the clone reported. The winter is harsh. They will seek shelter, supplies. We can intercept them before they reach the higher altitudes. Vesper's smile widened, revealing teeth that were a little too sharp. Excellent. Let us prepare a welcoming party, one that will remind them of the true power of this world, and perhaps a little reunion for my dear sister Elara. She always was too soft. The Warlock raised a hand, a subtle energy crackling around his fingertips. Patience. Let them exhaust themselves. Let their hope dwindle. Let them taste despair before they face their true master. The Sky Viking longship banked sharply, its engines humming with renewed power, a dark shadow against the pale winter sky. Below, the tiny figures of the Guardian and their companions pressed onward, unaware of the technological terror that stalked them from above, a silent predator waiting for the opportune moment to strike. The game had begun, and the Demon King's pawns were already in motion. Chapter 9. The Mountain of Malice. The ascent was brutal. The northern peaks lived up to their ominous reputation, a jagged crown of rock and ice piercing the heavens. Each step was a battle against the biting wind, the treacherous snow, and the thinning air. Days blurred into a grueling rhythm of climbing, resting, and pushing onward. Their supplies dwindled, and even Elara's healing touch couldn't fully ward off the gnawing fatigue. Coda, cloaked in the anonymity of the red mantis helmet, moved with an almost supernatural endurance, his powerful limbs effortlessly navigating the perilous terrain. He was their anchor, their guide, his senses attuned to the subtle shifts in the mountain, his strength a constant reassurance. Bram, despite his age, displayed a surprising resilience, his years of experience in the wilderness proving invaluable. He knew how to find shelter in the most unlikely places, how to conserve energy, and how to keep their spirits from breaking. As they neared the summit, the landscape transformed. The natural rock gave way to colossal obsidian structures, seamlessly integrated into the mountain itself. These were the outer defenses of the Demon King's fortress, a testament to his advanced engineering and his desire for an impenetrable stronghold. Strange, glowing runes pulsed on the dark stone, and automated sentinels, silent and menacing, patrolled the perimeter. Their first skirmish came unexpectedly. A patrol of armored guards, their faces hidden behind visored helmets, emerged from a hidden crevice. They were not the agile lemming elves, but heavily armed humanoids, wielding energy lances and shields that shimmered with defensive fields. Coda, with a guttural roar, met them head-on. The red mantis helmet seemed to amplify his ferocity, the glowing red eyes burning with an infernal light. He moved with blinding speed, a blur of dark fur and crimson light, disarming and incapacitating the guards with brutal efficiency. The Guardian, Bram, and Alara fought alongside him, their combined skills a formidable force against the Demon King's minions. They pressed deeper, navigating a labyrinth of icy tunnels and cavernous halls. The air grew heavy with the scent of ozone and something else, something ancient and malevolent. The warlock's influence was palpable, a dark magic woven into the very fabric of the fortress. Traps lay hidden in their path, pressure plates that triggered energy blasts, tripwires that unleashed swarms of mechanical drones, and illusions that sought to disorient and divide them. Ilara's keen senses, honed by her connection to the natural world, proved crucial in detecting these hidden dangers. Bram's pragmatic approach helped them bypass complex security systems, often by simply finding a more direct, albeit more dangerous route. And the Guardian, their resolve hardened by the journey, provided the strategic thinking, guiding them through the maze with a clear head. As they ascended further, they encountered more formidable resistance. Elite guards, their armor gleaming with intricate circuitry, and even a few of the dreaded lemming elves, now equipped with heavier weaponry, tried to halt their progress. Each encounter was a trial, pushing them to their limits, but with each victory, their determination grew. They were not just fighting for their lives, they were fighting for a future free from the Demon King's tyranny. Finally, after what felt like an eternity, they reached a massive, ornate door, forged from a dark, unknown metal and emblazoned with the terrifying sigil of the Demon King. This was it, the heart of the mountain, the lair of the tyrant. Beyond this door lay their ultimate challenge, the culmination of their perilous journey. The air crackled with anticipation, a silent hum of power emanating from within. The trials were over. The final confrontation awaited. Chapter 10. The Final Sacrifice. The massive doors groaned open, revealing a cavernous throne room bathed in an eerie, pulsating green light. At its center, on a throne carved from what appeared to be solidified shadow, sat the Demon King. He was a colossal figure, even larger than Coda, his fur a darker, almost black hue, his eyes glowing with an infernal red. A crown of jagged, crystalline spikes adorned his head, and his presence exuded an oppressive aura of power and malice. Flanking him were Vesper, her face a mask of cold triumph, and the warlock, his skeletal hand resting on a staff that crackled with dark energy. The Bram clone stood silently beside them, a chilling reminder of the deception that had started their journey. "Brother," the Demon King rumbled, his voice a deep, resonant growl that vibrated through the very stone. "You have returned, and you bring me gifts." His gaze swept over the Guardian, Ilara, and Bram, a predatory glint in his eyes. Coda, still wearing the red mantis helmet, stepped forward, his posture defiant. "I have come to end your tyranny, brother, to free this world from your grasp." The Demon King let out a mocking laugh, a sound devoid of humor. "Foolish cub, you were always too soft, too weak. You cling to these mortals, these fragile things, while true power awaits you. Power without compassion is merely cruelty, the Guardian interjected, stepping forward, their voice firm despite the overwhelming presence of the Demon King. And your reign is built on fear, not loyalty. The Demon King's eyes narrowed. Silence, mortal. Your words are meaningless. He gestured, and Vesper, with a snarl, lunged forward, her regenerated arm now tipped with razor-sharp claws, aiming for Elara. The warlock raised his staff, dark tendrils of magic snaking towards Bram. The battle erupted. Coda, with a roar, met his brother's charge. The clash of their massive bodies shook the throne room, a whirlwind of fur and fury. The red mantis helmet glowed brighter, its red eyes mirroring the Demon King's own. Their fight was a primal dance of power, each blow capable of shattering stone, each roar a challenge to the other's dominance. While Elara skillfully dodged Vesper's attacks, her healing magic ready to counter, and Bram bravely fended off the warlock's dark spells, the Guardian saw an opening. The Demon King, focused entirely on Coda, had left himself vulnerable. A single critical weakness, a pulsating energy conduit on his back, was exposed during a particularly powerful swing. Coda, his back, the conduit, the Guardian screamed, pointing. The Demon King, distracted for a split second, turned his head, his eyes blazing with fury. In that moment, the warlock, seeing the Guardian as the true threat, unleashed a devastating blast of dark energy. Without hesitation, the Guardian threw themselves in front of Coda, shielding him from the warlock's attack. The impact was immediate, searing, and absolute. A blinding flash of green light enveloped the Guardian, and then, nothing. Their body disintegrated, leaving behind only a faint wisp of smoke and the lingering scent of ozone. Coda roared, a sound of pure, unadulterated anguish and rage. The loss of his guardian, the one who had given him life, love, and purpose, ignited a fire within him unlike anything before. His eyes, visible through the red mantis helmet, burned with an intensity that matched his brother's. He moved with a newfound ferocity, a blur of motion that even the Demon King struggled to counter. The Demon King, momentarily stunned by the Guardian's sacrifice, found himself on the defensive. Coda, fueled by grief and vengeance, pressed his advantage. He struck with the force of a thunderbolt, his claws tearing through the Demon King's defenses, his jaws snapping at his throat. The battle was short, brutal, and decisive. With a final, earth-shattering roar, Coda delivered a blow that shattered the Demon King's crystalline crown and sent him crashing to the ground, lifeless. The green light in the throne room flickered and died, replaced by the soft, natural glow of the ice outside. Vesper, seeing her master fall, shrieked and fled into the shadows. The warlock, his power broken, vanished in a puff of smoke. The Bram clone simply dissolved into dust. Coda stood over his fallen brother, his chest heaving, the red mantis helmet still glowing faintly. He removed the helmet, his bare face streaked with tears, his eyes filled with a profound sadness. He had won, but at a terrible cost. He looked at the spot where the Guardian had stood, a silent promise forming in his heart. He would remember. He would remember the Guardian, the one who had seen past the beast and nurtured the soul within, the one who had taught him compassion, courage, and the true meaning of family. He would honor their sacrifice by changing this world, by ruling not with fear, but with justice and kindness. The Demon King was dead, but a new era had dawned, an era guided by the memory of a guardian who had given everything for a better world. Coda, the bear of the red mantis, would ensure their legacy lived on.